Hi, everyone, and welcome to week 12 of our Sweet Childhood Memory Sew Along, hosted by Pat Sloan at her website, ilovetomakequilts.com. This week, we want to know what your favorite outdoor game was. For me as a child, all the kids in my neighborhood would get together and we would play a game of cricket in the middle of the street using our garbage bins as the stumps. There was always the excited person screaming out car when a car was coming so that we could clear the streets and then continue our game after the car had passed. Anyway, if you haven't done so already, jump over to Pat's website, download this week's free pattern, come back here, and I'll show you how to do it. We only need to make a few half square triangles this week, folks, and then we lay this out like a 9-patch and sew it together using 9-patch rules. So to begin, to make the half square triangles, we'll take the larger of our squares, make a diagonal line on the reverse side of our background squares, pair these up right sides together with our red squares here, and sew 1/4 of an inch on each side of our drawn line. With that now done, and you may have noticed I redid one of mine as my stitching line was far from straight and I wouldn't have had enough of a seam allowance once chopping them in half, which is what we're going to do now. Now that we have our 2 seams sewn on each side of our drawn line, we need to give this a press right now. That's optional. I just setting the stitches first of all, and then we will slice these across our drawn line and then press our pieces to the dark side. With those units now pressed, we just need to trim these down to our required size, which in this instance is 2.5 inches. I do this using my 6.5 inch square ruler, and I place my diagonal line from the ruler on my stitching line. I make sure that I have enough fabric outside my required trim down measurement on all 4 sides before trimming the first 2 sides. I then rotate the block, line up my 2.5 inches on those freshly trimmed sides, ensure that my diagonal line from my ruler is still along the stitching, and trim the final 2 sides. Now we just need to lay this block out in its final 9-patch fashion. Now that we have our 9-patch laid out, 9-patch construction rules apply. We first start by sewing our vertical seams and then finally our 2 horizontal seams. You'll see as we go through here that I press the top row out towards the corners, the bottom row out towards the corners also, and the center row in towards the solid block in the middle. This will make sure when we do our 2 horizontal seams that all of our seams will nest nicely. With our vertical seams now done and all our pressing finished, we can nest our seams here, as I said before, and sew our horizontal seams. Once I've sewn this first horizontal seam, I am actually going to spin my intersections, as there is a little bit of bulk where the half square triangles come in. To do this, we need to first unpick our little bit of stitching that is above our horizontal stitching line, and then we can twist those little things apart, not tear, and rotate those intersections so that our bulk is spread out around that point. I'm just going to do the same here and spin my intersections again, and all of my fabrics will be going in the right directions to give us the flattest block possible. Once I've done this and given it a good press all over, I am going to attach the required sashing piece to the bottom of this. I'm then also going to attach this to the block that sits above this one so that we can have some of our layout all ready together to head towards final construction of the full quilt once all our blocks are done. Thanks for joining me again this week, folks. If you haven't done so already, like my video, share it with a friend, or subscribe if you haven't already done so. Most important, tickle that little bell icon and you won't miss a thing. Bye for now, and I'll see you all again next week.